Hello, good afternoon. Okay, so let me start. I think we're on time. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking your time to join me today. My name is Kendrick Lee. I'm the managing partner and co-founder at Raffles Family Office. So, Raffles Family Office is a multi-family office that is headquartered in Hong Kong, and that offers a full range of wealth management services through our offices in Asia. So as a multi-family office, we of course cater to multiple families, and we do actually do direct engagement with the families themselves, or in some cases through their single family offices. So for clients and prospects that don't have family offices, one of Raffles Family Office services is actually offerings actually includes the advice on setting up and managing of those entities. So we have done this for our clients in numerous jurisdictions, usually as a precursor to providing them with our independent investment services. So, what I'd like to share with you today are a few thoughts and also some best practices related to setting up a family offices, especially it relates to doing so in Singapore. So, to do that, I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about what we learned about this process through the early days of setting up our business in Singapore, which was prompted by an upswell of inquiries from our clients in the region about creating family office in Singapore. And there were various reasons for this, and many of which still hold true to this day. The stability, the business-friendly environment, and most importantly, the city's family office friendly policies. So these individuals we help are, of course, by no means alone. So a vast number of Asian or non-Asian families are finding their way to Singapore to set up an investment or satellite investment base, and this is something that is very much borne out in the statistics. In fact, the Wealth Management Institute shows that the number of family offices in Singapore between 2019 to 2020 alone actually doubled to almost 400. So this growth is being driven by numerous factors, with the most important being the accommodating regulatory regime, the favorable taxation policies, the sophisticated financial service ecosystem, the rule of law, of course, the common law system, which is essential for trust, the strategic geographical location, and the political and economic stability, and the innovative approach to technology. And these well established and well established and of course the supportive attributes are precisely what enable Raffles Family Office to provide comprehensive and holistic services to an increasing number of ultra high net worth individuals and families in Singapore. And with its world-leading education system, of course, low crime rate and corruption rate, as well as its vibrant cultural life, so Singapore is also a great place to live for families. This is important because the choice of location to set up a family office is not just about asset and wealth management, but also about a place where the interests of family can be best served and safeguarded. So I think Singapore has really have all these bases covered. Right. So, I mean, of course, I'm sure many of you are really aware of these points, but I think the real game changer was what happened in 2020, because the Singapore government that year actually introduced the Variable Capital Company, or the VCC, which is a key pillar of Singapore's attractiveness in the eyes of family offices. The reason the VCC is a game changer for family offices is because it helps families streamline their assets and to plan for succession. The VCC is a corporate entity structure under which collective investment schemes can be gathered together under a single corporation. A key feature is that the schemes are segregated. VCCs are a great alternative to trust and partnerships. Indeed, since they were brought in, we've received numerous inquiries from existing and prospective clients about transferring Cayman structures over. VCCs serve as a single family office and structure, and with investment governance parameters and various options to segregate assets. They can be structured as an umbrella or standalone entity. Not only that, the VCC shareholder details are recorded but not made public. And family offices that make use of this approach can actually apply for an exemption from registering as a fund manager. So the introduction of VCC actually opens up a plethora of options for our family office clients. So as an indicator of their effectiveness, within 1 year of their launch, some 300 VCs had been set up. So family offices that have already been set up are actually looking at them as a way to better structure their operations, and those that are at the very start of their journey are looking at them as a starting point. So with that, of course, the VCC was also topped up by the government when the government brought in a set of tax incentive policies outlined under sections 13O and 13U of the Singapore Tax Act. That actually was the 13 R13 Acts, to actually incentivize families to have their operations here by giving them tax exemptions on certain items. So these policies are particularly appealing to family offices because the exemptions cover family office managed investment fund income. Right? So just want to illustrate the impact of these policies. So I'd like to tell you about the family offices set up in Singapore and share an example of a couple we work with. So Mr. and Mrs. Lee, so they are a typical Asian high net worth couple. So they grew up in Southeast Asia in 1950s in actually a rural town that lacked of a sophisticated infrastructure. So having left school at 15, they set up a chicken rice store. Inspired by an old family recipe handed down through the generations, it proved a hit with the local community. So after working hard for 5 years, they saved up enough money to expand to the nearby city where they honed their entrepreneurial skills and business acumen. The products of their humble backgrounds, they saved hard and view of buying a family home. So after a couple of years, and then they had enough money to buy out a competitor and continue their expansion journey. Along the way, they bought a house and a few others as investments. Building out gradually, they outgrew the city and expanded nationwide. Their previous successes were replicated. The result of their hard work and good business decisions. So then diversification into high-end real estate and international markets beckoned. So Mr. Lee, of course, was not just great at making chicken rice, but he was also a savvy investor. And after years of steady expansion and shrewd investment moves, he actually reached ultra high net worth status. So life has a tendency to take unexpected turns, but unfortunately at this point, Mrs. Lee was diagnosed with terminal illness. So the sad news actually prompted them to relook at their holdings, which at that time was scattered across different jurisdictions, bank accounts, different companies, and then of course with different family members. Bank accounts with different individual names, and some are joint names. So it became a little bit messy. So it actually dawned upon them that they actually needed to restructure and overhaul their succession plan. This required the compartmentalization of their assets, the creation of a family governance structure, and of course the development of a binding will and testament, and of course supporting trust structures. So because RFO, we are a full service provider, we were able to do all this, but the starting point was the family office. So a common question we get asked is about why the family office structure is the way forward. So quite simply, if there's no structure in place, then of course succession is riskier, right? So to complicate the situation, Mr. Lee's kids didn't express a keen interest in taking the business over. So what Mr. Lee needed to do was to sell his business and then consolidate his assets and ensure that the assets would be structured to last for successive generations in a way that was tax efficient and equitable as far as his kids were concerned. And this is where the VC structure was invaluable. It actually effectively allowed Mr. Lee to consolidate his assets, but then segregate them into sub-funds within the same entity. So Mr. Lee needed stable dividends to pay out for the generations going forward, and a certain share of his investment yield would be apportioned to his children. He accessed professional help, as part of the process to manage his real estate holdings, and then so basically, to have to carve out the different to custom compartmentalize each of his different asset classes. So again, as a holistic multi-family office, we actually help him with this end-to-end, putting in place a constitution and succession plan to ensure their wealth actually lasts through the generations. But of course, with no comprehensive structure in place, it's the likelihood of potential family conflicts increases. This is what Mr. and Mrs. Lee really prompted them to start a proper family office. So now, for another one of our clients, so actually that Mr. Chen, who lives in North Asia. So on graduating from university in the mid 1990s with a degree in software engineering, he actually embarked on a career at a software firm. So inspired by the likes of Facebook, Tencent, and of course other tech firms emerging at the time, he actually embarked on developing a unique translation software solution that uses machine learning to actually enable near instantaneous translation between dozens of languages. So funded by small loans and from family and friends, he actually quit work to develop his solution into a viable business. So over the course of 3 years, he perfected the software and of course embarked on scaling it up. So as an early developer, he made headway quickly, and of course that was contributed by the tech boom and globalization. So through his diligence, entrepreneurship, and of course a lot of hard work, he actually built his business and licensed his software to some of the world's largest technology platforms. He went on to secure the patent for his technology, and then started licensing it more widely. So Mr. Chen, of course, he has seen his wealth soar over the last 10 years. And after welcoming his daughter, of course, the birth of his daughter, he actually decided to relocate his business and his family to Singapore so that his daughter could be schooled in Singapore. But while he was already very successful, he had a keen interest in other areas of tech, such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and of course the whole tech ecosystem. Starting a variable capital company in Singapore was the really optimal solution for him, partly because it enabled him to pursue his interest in investing in technology startups via private equity deals. So he also turned into the Singapore's Global Investor Program, the GIP program, which provides a route to applying for PR, permanent residency, it's one of the options for investors with business and investment operations of $5 million in Singapore. So because his child really lives with some severe learning disabilities, so he was keen for us to actually create a tailor-made low risk fund that provided stable returns, and of course, seamless investment management for her and a smooth succession later down the road. So he relocated his assets to Singapore and started VCC so he could fulfill his ambitions of investing in other areas of technology that he had interest in as well. So while holding other assets for his child under a succession plan. So the two examples, of course, bear in mind that I did not use the actual names of the clients, illustrate the unique diversity of Asia's ultra high net worth individuals and how Singapore's VCC program has helped them, address their specific needs. So now, if I didn't explain that we actually offer two options for leveraging VCC at Raffles, the first actually involves working through our sub funds. So let me show you. I can explain a little bit about this. So for this, of course, we have our own master fund, but because Mr. and Mrs. Lee needed, to more something very direct, and they're not very well versed with the different structures. So what happened is they actually did a very more direct and very simple and very efficient way of setting up, segregating their assets into the different sub funds. So of course, the first one, it was into fixed income, equities, as well as the real estate. So it actually segregated into 3 different sub funds, and then each is very independent of the other. So that actually allowed them to compartmentalize, which I mentioned earlier, compartmentalize their different assets, the different asset classes, and then it's actually tailored for the different strategy and the way how we can manage them separately. So so that's it. That's it. So of course, the second option is also to create a private label fund. So much like the individuals that, of course, Mr. Chen that I mentioned earlier. So he actually started his own fund, his own umbrella fund, a brand new fund, a brand new structure. So that becomes a family fund, right? So the purpose of this is actually also to own a lot of control, a lot of his has his own he basically he owns control over this fund, and then the purpose, if you realize that there are multiple purposes within why he wanted to set up this whole fund. One is of course for his special needs daughter, and then secondly is of course to actually invest in other tech firms through private equity. So the best thing about this is because each sub fund could actually invest in specific projects, and they can as soon as there's fruition, it comes to fruition, he gets back his money, and then it flows back to basically his own bank account, or he can use it to recycle to another project. So when that happens, why he can use for specific funds, because if in case his family or friends actually like what he invests in, they could also potentially participate in the specific projects, and because it's very specific, very project specific, they or investment specific or company specific that he invests in, they could actually put in, they can actually pick and choose which one they want to participate in. So yeah, that actually allows external, or rather under we mentioned CIS earlier, they can external third parties or family and friends can actually participate, and without that being commingled into the family funds altogether. Yeah. So with that, of course, I think those are the two options. Those are some of the options. Two of the very very many options, and that is very tailor made to in accordance to what of course the clients the clients require. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, with that, of course, you heard of the Mr. Lee and Mr. Chen's cases. Also, really illustrate, of course, the unique challenges that some of them face, and how setting up family office in Singapore actually can help elevate some of these challenges. So the main challenge is actually succession. So with all this wealth recently generated, so we see Asia is actually one of the largest. We are undergoing one of the largest wealth transfers from the first generation to the next over the coming decade. So that is actually one of the examples. Actually, one of the richest men in Asia, Mr. Li Ka-shing, who actually retired in 2020, and now he has announced. Is passing on his business empire to his children. So Asia's rise, and a huge transfer of wealth present numerous opportunities for Singapore to develop further as a highly desirable destination for family offices. So they also illustrate why Singapore is a destination of choice for many ultra high net worth families. Yeah, so of course, so with what was mentioned, the attractiveness, so it is actually little wonder why we've seen, Google Sergey Brin, business entrepreneur, James Dyson, Bridgewater Associates hedge fund manager, Ray Dalio, Eduardo Savari, former Facebook co-founder, and Heidi Lin. They all set up offices, family offices in Singapore. So now I should actually explain that not all of these individuals actually use VCC structures in their family office. So actually, Ray Dalio is an interesting one, because he didn't actually use the VCC structure to set up a branch of his Bridgewater Associates family office, since his needs being more geared towards running a handful of personal investments and philanthropic initiatives. So he set up his Dalio Family Trust. Yeah. So looking at Singapore from the wealth management perspective, more generally, actually Singapore is going from strength to strength as a hub. So ultra high net worth clients actually chose Singapore for its sound, financial regulation, rule of law, as well as its political and economic stability. So the breadth and then of the depth of institutions in Singapore also gives them convenient access to global and regional financial markets. And the ecosystem also provides a full suite of wealth management services to meet their every need. So as well as being business friendly, so Singapore also boasts a very highly developed financial ecosystem that includes sophisticated financial market infrastructure. So Singapore is also a has a fast-growing ecosystem populated by, of course, your lawyers, your asset managers, your accountants, banks, trustees, your custodians, of course, IT providers, just to name a few, and this actually supports the entire ecosystem, family office ecosystem, and Singapore as a financial hub. So as I was mentioning, Singapore is actually home to actually 1,000 plus fund management companies, of course 150 banks, insurance 200 over insurance companies, and these are all actually statistics according to the Wealth Management Institute. So actually it actually has a long established capital markets, and of course OTC, the over the counter derivatives platforms, and it's a commodities trading and FX center. So these services and providers are essential when it comes to setting up and maintaining a family office, particularly when it comes to investment. So we are within reach, and we are within reach of all these different services. It's just a phone call away, or just it's all within the same area. Yep. So also take private equity, for example. So Singapore was the only Southeast Asian market to record growth in terms of private equity deals and deal value in 2020. That is according to a report by Bain and Company. So so Singapore also has one eye firmly on the future as well. So that said, for instance, digital assets are actually an important part of our efforts to innovate financial services, and Singapore also follows a balanced approach to regulating this. So enough to adequately regulate the sphere while providing space for innovation. So I think that maybe probably we are quite a bit forward looking, because this digital assets is really what probably the third generation or the younger generation, what they require and what they are very interested in now. Yeah. So this is actually very important, because 30% of APAC family offices respondents for Raffles Family Office Asia Pacific edition of the 2021 Global Family Office Report actually is to increase their exposure to cryptocurrencies, and this is actually is notably higher figure than the global average of 28%. So Singapore's approach, of course, to digital assets, especially appeals to the likes of, when I mentioned Mr. Chen from the earlier examples, the software entrepreneur that I told you earlier. So it requires, it actually appeals to really the entrepreneurs. So another example of Singapore's forward-thinking policies actually comes in the form of its approach to ESG issues. The Singapore Exchange has from 2016 actually required companies to release annual sustainability reports covering their policies and practices. So with that, the government is actually spending about more than over $1 billion Singapore dollars to actually help business become carbon efficient, and the Monetary Authority of Singapore, the MAS, also Green Investments Program, also will invest about $2 billion in investment strategies in the public markets, focusing on green criteria. So that said, Singapore also actually signed about 100 double tax agreements with other jurisdictions, including including India and China. So these agreements actually reduce or even exempt certain types of income from double taxation, and are really attractive to families with cross-border family business enterprises. Yeah, and the margin, of course, meanwhile, the marginal income tax rate for individuals is actually kept between 2%. So there's no tax for individuals of foreign source income, and there's no capital gain tax. So likewise, Singapore has no estate duties. So people passing on their estate after the 15th of February 2008 have been able to do so under this policy. So there's also no dividend withholding tax. So in addition, these numerous international agreements, corporate tax is actually charged at a flat rate of about 17%. That compares extremely favorable with the average rate in Asia of about 21.43%, and the average rate of 27.16% in America. So against this backdrop of Singapore's competitive immigration and tax policies, for the visa structure, the family office community that is blossoming, partly of course the result is due to the result of the government support in Singapore. So for example, the Wealth Management Institute actually rolled out a network last year to support family office growth in Singapore. This actually, the Global Asia Family Office Circle, is a platform for industry participants to collaborate, foster new capabilities, and share industry's best practices. So it runs programs on investment strategies, philanthropy, and of course sustainable and impact investing. So among some other relevant topics. So platforms like this are actually creating important conversations that can only benefit family offices. While the topic of family offices was actually one considered niche, the community is growing on multiple fronts. So, of course, this aided by forums like today's summit. So one I think one reason why Singapore is an ideal family office home because it's resilience, right? The recent pandemic actually comprised of a test for Singapore's political, economic, and social system, and its achievements clearly demonstrate the city-state's enduring strengths. So Singapore's handling of the pandemic is actually a testament to its capabilities, and its response has prompted more ultra high net worth individuals to actually view it as a safe haven in challenging times. So with government's expenditures soaring during the pandemic and populist calls for increased taxation of wealth on the rise, Asia's ultra high net worth families are also looking more closely at tax efficiency, and Singapore's tax system is one of the most family office friendly in the world. So the region is actually attracting a lot of attention of family offices, in this area. So of course, in the Raffles Family Office, our Asia Pacific edition of the 2021 Global Family Office Report, we produced it in partnership with Camden Wealth, found that actually more than half, about 54% of 385 family offices surveyed worldwide plan to actually increase their investments in the region. But further, 77% of family offices are based in APAC actually plan to increase their investments in their home region. So Singapore, of course, is an independent country, politically stable, and the government has consistently adopted a very, very pro-business stance in its policy. So it's actually, second second best to do business worldwide, and these are all according to the World Bank Doing Business 2020 report. So I believe ultra high net worth individuals are very comfortable also with the common law system that we have here. So it actually provides a lot of clarity, and the system is well understood. So I mean, of course, with this all this reputation, well-deserved reputation, and as being open to the global talent, and foreign experts are really attracted to Singapore, and there are many of the same reasons that make it an attractive place to open to family office. So of course, we are also multilingual. So I think that's it. That the different languages the people we speak here. So I mean, of course, we speak Malay, Mandarin, Tamil, English. So there are high and a very high proportion of population here are bilingual. So that's it. Singapore has really established very well established, itself as a booming business hub. So this is actually also a gateway, used as a gateway by companies wanting to gain access to Southeast Asia and Asia. So it has really become home to numerous multinationals companies like your Airbus and Rolls-Royce, who actually made Singapore its APAC headquarters. So that actually shows. Actually a testament for why people are looking to Singapore, not just for the family office but also for their own family, for their own business. So so Singapore is actually a place where it can house both pieces. So coming back to family office, I mean, of course, we are still very in a very nascent stage in Asia, but of course, we are, in Singapore, we actually working very hard to solidify and give shape to the family office journeys through the generation. So these efforts really enable us to help likes of Mr. and Mrs. Lee and Mr. Chen to preserve, to grow, and to actually pass on their wealth to the future generations. Safe in the knowledge that they have access to the best in class services, of course, Singapore has to offer. So whether it's succession or tax planning, asset allocation, manager selection, philanthropic services, family foundation management, your regulatory compliance, or any of these services family offices draw on, Singapore has actually implemented a well thought out strategy to attract family offices, and its efforts of bearing fruits. So today I've outlined the ins and outs of setting up a family office in Singapore and shared our experience. So they really holistic range of services available in Singapore is to meet actually diverse and growing needs of not just the Asia's ultra high net worth individuals, but also from those around the world. So coming out of the pandemic, and already against the backdrop of growing volatility around the world, so Singapore actually stands out as a safe haven for family offices. So each family is really unique. So therefore, there can be no one size fits all approach to family office structures. But what Singapore does is provide an ecosystem in which we can focus on the specific needs of each family. So, of course, every single thing that I've mentioned today is actually beneficial for the full range of ultra high net worth individuals who need the services of a full suite multi-family office. So to ensure they get the best possible setup in Singapore and fully leverage the range of options available. So families should be asking themselves a series of questions. Sorry. Yeah. So the series of questions that we always ask ourselves. So what does your idea of succession look like? What types of services would help you achieve your family's objectives, and which service provider aligns with your approach to wealth? So do you need fund administrators? Which tax efficient vehicles best meet your family's unique needs? What philanthropic goals do you want to achieve, and where and how do you want the next generation educated? So answering this question is the way to ensuring wealth is safely and securely preserved and of course transmitted across generations through teaming up with multi-families, of course, like Raffles Family Office. Families can get answers to these questions and many more, and of course determine the optimal range of services they need under Singapore's family office environment, and navigate the complex challenges and opportunities that manage family wealth entails. So yeah, with that, I thank you all for your time today. It's been really a pleasure. Yeah, so hope you guys have a great takeaway, and yeah, speak to you soon. Thank you.